What's poppin', y'all? It's week 3 of the 2024 NFL season, and the Wake Up crew, myself and my boy JRich, are back for our top 15 quarterbacks on the week and our top 24 and some change running backs on the week. So make sure you tap into everything that we're doing over here on the channel. Check out the Wake Up Show, but we're not going to play around. Let's get right into it and get you the rankings that you need to dominate and win your fantasy leagues for week 3. JRich, let's start off with the quarterback position. Let's get it. Top 6 quarterbacks on the week. Who we got?
We are starting off with Jalen Hurts at number 1. We have Josh Allen at number 2. Kyler Murray at number 3. Lamar Jackson, number 4. Joe Burrow at number 5. And Jayden Daniels at number 6. Ray, we have a decision to make right off the rip because Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson are both 3 and 4 in our rankings. They are flipped, so they are tied in our consensus. Please tell me why I should rank Lamar Jackson as QB3, and I will convince you why Kyler is QB3.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson against the Dallas Cowboys this week. Dallas looked awful against the run versus the New Orleans Saints. They have been very problematic and very troublesome in trying to stop the run dating back to last season. This is a must-win game for both teams. Baltimore cannot afford to go 0-3. Dallas Cowboys probably do not want to fall to 1-2. This is a home game for Dallas. But, Jay, I am very concerned about this Dallas defense versus a desperate, probably, Baltimore Ravens team. Give me Lamar Jackson. I love Lamar this week. I'm very high on Derrick Henry, which we will talk about here shortly. But that's my case for Lamar Jackson against this Dallas front on the road. And Lamar historically has played very well against NFC opponents. I'm all in on Lamar Jackson here in week 3.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really debate it because I do have Lamar Jackson very high in my ranks as well, and I think he could go absolutely nuclear on your Dallas Cowboys, but Kyler's playing at a different level right now. Kyler, early in the season, that's when you see MVP level Kyler. While the pass catchers aren't quite what they used to be when he had DeAndre Hopkins, he is still running at an elite level. He's passing near perfect like we saw last week. And I think the matchup against Detroit has extremely high upside in terms of points and, importantly, fantasy points. I think he's going to be running for his life, but with Aiden Hutchinson chasing after him, and I think he's going to score a ton of fantasy points. So slight edge for me is Kyler, but I love Lamar as well. Obviously, you're starting all of these guys. I think the one guy who kind of surprises is Joe Burrow. We both have him very high. Great matchup on Monday night against the Washington Commanders. Worst defense in football, especially against the pass. Expect Jahmyr Chase to smash. We could see T. Higgins back, and they still have no running game. I don't think that's going to change. So Burrow is a guy I think you have to start. But tell me about Jayden Daniels, because I don't know what to expect from him. But if Cincinnati's going to score, Daniels is going to have to respond. I think he'll do that by running the ball and getting it to his pass catchers.
Yeah, I think we've got him projected for right around 21 fantasy points, which would be one of the better scores on the week for the quarterbacks. But it's the correlation of that game. If you are here and we're saying that Joe Burrow is going to be a top 5 quarterback on the week, Jahmyr Chase is going to be the top wide receiver on the week, potentially Cincinnati getting back T. Higgins this week, and you already alluded to the fact that they can't run the ball, it's going to put Jayden Daniels in a situation where he's going to have to make plays, whether that be his legs or his arms. I'm confident that Jayden Daniels' fantasy scoring will continue here in week 3. Let's move on to QB 7 through 12. JRich, what we got?
So we have Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, Brock Purdy, Derek Carr, who's real hot right now, CJ Stroud, and Jared Goff. Ray, when we look at our consensus ranks, there's 2 gripes I have with you. One is your egregious rank of Brock Purdy at QB 13 outside of your top 12. And then Jared Goff, you have Kyler Murray all the way up at QB 3 or QB 4 because I have him at 3, you have him at 4. And you can't even show Jared Goff any respect. I have him at QB 9. You have him all the way down at QB 14. Tell me why Brock Purdy against this awful Rams defense won't smash, and then Jared Goff in the game stack with the Arizona Cardinals.
Well, it feels like this game against for Brock Purdy is going to be a Jordan Mason type game. It feels like it's going to be a Jordan Mason affair. George Kittle is looking doubtful for this one. No Deebo Samuel, no Christian McCaffrey. Everything falling on the arm, the shoulder, and the legs of number 13. And I love me some Brock Purdy, but this is a matchup where I'm just not as bullish on you as you, thinking that Purdy's just going to be able to throw the ball to Ayuk every time and have 300 yards and 3+ touchdowns. This is a matchup against the Rams, which the Niners should go out there and handle them, but I just don't know if it's going to be asked or the responsibility placed on Brock to get this one done. Top pass catchers, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, Jacob Cowing. I don't like it, JRich. I don't like it, man.
Yeah, okay. Now talk to the people about Baker Mayfield, because I have him a little bit lower at 10, which, again, he's going to smash against Denver, but you have him all the way up at QB 7. So sell the people on Baker Mayfield as a top 8 quarterback in week 3.
And projected for almost 250 passing yards. You got two of the better receivers in the NFL who are being utilized like elite level receivers in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And we'll get to the wide receivers in the next ranking set. Very high on both of those wideouts. But this is a team who has played very well coming off of a big road win against Detroit last week. Baker Mayfield is cooking. This offense is cooking. And Rachaad White is still inefficient and banged up. Cade Otton's not gotten a lot done since Dave Canales has left. It is the Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin show. And I fully expect that to continue this week versus a very poor Denver Broncos team. They're not going to be able to move the ball offensively. Look for Tampa Bay to get out early and often and take it home against Denver.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Baker's going to have a great week. You see, outside of our top 12, we have Dak Prescott, Anthony Richardson, and Geno Smith, who both of us have no clue where to rank them. We have them both at QB 15. You do have JRich and Dak inside of your top 12. I have them just outside of my top 12, and with consensus, they did fall just short of that 12. You do have Stroud ranked a little bit higher. I'm a little concerned about the Minnesota defense, and we both love Derek Carr. The theme of this week, Ray, game stacks. If you got a good game stack and a high total, they're in the top 12. That's just how it is, and that's how it's going to be. Derek Carr, Jalen Hurts, love that. Jared Goff, Kyler Murray, love that. Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, we'll see. But I'm very excited for this week. Do you have anything else to talk about for the quarterbacks before we head to the running backs?
Yeah, I just want to say that Dak Prescott is low, and not because of Dak and not because of the matchup. I mean, this is a 48.5, I believe, point total in this game with Baltimore and Dallas. It's one of the highest scoring totals on the slate this weekend. It's the fact that we have not really seen Dallas identify and develop that wide receiver too. Not sure if Jake Ferguson is going to play or not. It seems like he's trending towards being in. Hopefully no limitations there. That would be a big boost to the Dallas offense, having Jake Ferguson out there. He's not going to be ranked on our tight ends right now because we kind of don't know here on Friday. But if Jake Ferguson is in, just letting you know, we would push him up to a top 10 tight end. This is just a matchup where Dallas cannot run the ball. It's CeeDee Lamb or bust. I want to see Dallas develop some semblance of a rushing attack and also figure out another reliable wide receiver too to throw the ball to. Anthony Richardson versus Chicago. This is just a tough matchup. And I actually really do like Geno Smith versus Miami, especially if Kenneth Walker does not play. He might get moved up as we get closer to kickoff on Sunday.
Yeah, Dak is, this is a total, and especially in that Dallas and Baltimore game, it just feels like it's going to go under. Both offenses have really struggled. I don't know if that's necessarily going to change playing against these same defenses. It's going to be a tough game for both those quarterbacks, but Lamar with the rushing upside have to be in the top 5, no doubt about it. I think we can confidently move on to the running backs now.
Well, real quick, any of the QBs that we didn't talk about that you would think about putting in there. Minshew versus Carolina, Andy Dalton versus the Raiders, Kirk Cousins versus the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday night. Are there any other quarterbacks that you think have some the sneakiest upside to finish as a top, 8 option on the week?
The two I will give you, Ray, would be Sam Darnold in the matchup against CJ Stroud. Again, another one that if things got out of hand, high scoring, we expect Darnold to potentially match Stroud. Again, not saying I'm confident in it, but it could definitely happen. And then the sneaky one is always Deshaun Watson. Not because I think he's a great quarterback. He has a little bit of rushing upside, and he's playing against the Giants. So if for some reason they decided to throw touchdowns instead of run them in, Deshaun Watson could be a top 12 option, not necessarily because of the high volume, just because of the touchdowns.
All right, Jay. Now you were trying to transition us to another positional group. What are we going to talk about next?
We have to talk about the running backs because the running backs have been one of the more difficult positions this year. We've seen good running backs struggle. We've seen bad running backs play out of their minds. And most importantly, the number one question, Ray, is what are we doing with Alvin Kamara this week? Because we've already talked about Derek Carr and we've talked about Jalen Hurts and how we love this game. But starting off with our top 6, we have Bijan Robinson at 1, Alvin Kamara at number 2. Breece Hall was our 3rd ranked running back, which sort of worked out for Thursday Night Football. Christian McCaffrey, a.k.a. Jordan Mason, should be much higher on your rankings, by the way, and we will get to that in a minute. Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. My biggest gripe with you is you don't have Jordan Mason ranked in your top 3. And Ray, I don't know if you know this, but he has the 2nd best odds of any running back on the board to score a touchdown, only behind Alvin Kamara. So defend your ranking at 6 of Jordan Mason.
Well, these are our ranks, so we have him ranked as RB4. So I like Jordan Mason a lot.
I have him ranked at RB2.
I had Breece at 2. I did have Breece at 2. That didn't work out great. I've got Bijan at 1, Kamara at 3. Love the matchup for Kamara this week, which should be a bunch of points in that Saints versus Eagles matchup. Who do I have as RB5? Who is my RB5 on the week, Jay? Who's RB5 for me? I got Josh Jacobs. Volume. This man just had 32 rush attempts for damn near $160. Should have scored a touchdown, fumbled at the goal line. And then I got Jordan Mason. Got Jordan Mason right there. This is a simple fact of, if you're the Rams, you got one job. You stop Jordan Mason. You put all the pressure on Brock Purdy. Sell out to stop the run. It's a great matchup. We have him at RB4, but yes, that's why. I really like Breece, Kamara, Bijan Robinson, of course, and Josh Jacobs this week, which I'm much higher on Jacobs than you. You're talking about me. Defend your hate for Josh Jacobs. You got him at RB14. JRich, talk about that.
I mean, it was a stark contrast where I believe I had him at RB20 last week, and you were like, oh, how'd that happen? And what do you know? He doesn't do anything but get the yards. Malik Willis is still the quarterback, and I don't think that's much going to change in terms of upside for points being scored, and that's why Jacobs is lower for me. I do have him ranked probably a little bit lower than people would like, but if the chance of him scoring a touchdown is already low, I don't think there's a ton of upside for Jacobs right now. They don't even have lines for his touchdowns. They don't have lines for his carries. They don't have lines for his receptions because no one knows what this offense is going to be. So I am lower on Jacobs. I think that, your rank at 5 is a little bold. You're expecting him to score. Another player that for some reason you have ranked all the way at 8 and you skipped over it, Saquon Barkley. Bell cow Barkley is ranked at number 8 for you, even though all we've talked about this whole show is how the Saints and Eagles is going to be one of the greatest scoring matchups in the history of fantasy football. How in the hell could you have Saquon at 8 and I got him at number 1?
Well, this is not going to be how the hell, Ray, do you have all these players here and I have them nowhere. We got Saquon Barkley as our consensus RB5 on the week. Jay, go to RB7 through 12. Stop trying to put me in this predicament this morning. 7 through 12, who we got? Saquon's going to – I like Saquon a lot. This Philly offense is just, I want to see some more consistency out of this offense.
Definitely.
Saquon Barkley is phenomenal. Just want to see a little more consistency. And Saints defense is also very, very good, Jay. And I know they can only play who they've been matched up against, but Dallas couldn't do jack shit running the ball against the Saints defense last week. Who we got at RB7 through 12?
Yeah, we're in agreement. A lot of these guys. Jahmyr Gibbs at 7, Etienne at 8, James Cook at 9, Josh Jacobs at 10, James Conner at 11, and Jonathan Taylor at number 12. The only real discrepancies between the two of us were Jacobs, and then I have Etienne ranked very high. I'm not as concerned about what we're going to see with Skylar Thompson. I just think he's going to be used a lot. Whether I like it or not, he's going to be used a lot. I think he has a chance to score, and especially when you look at this team right now, the receiving upside seems to be much higher than we initially would have projected for Javon Etienne. I expect him to split those duties, and it seems like he is full go for that receiving duties in Miami. Do you have any other things you want to talk about with the top 12, or do you want to move on to 13 through 24?
I think both of our rankings of 12 and 13 for Jonathan Taylor signify maybe a little concern against this Chicago defense. And I also want to say, I believe James Cook is in a really good spot against Jacksonville to absolutely smash. We've got him 9 and 10. I had him at 10. You have him at 8. Comes out as our consensus RB9. But I think he is in line to have a really, really big game this weekend, Jay. So love that James Cook right there inside of our top 10. Let's go RBs 13 through 24. Those RB2s. Who we got?
Yeah, I mean, we can
pour
skip
one
right
out.
over the
pour one out for the first guy. Pour one out for
we
this
can
guy.
skip over the huge flop that I want to put in the top 12, but his team is so awful. Rhamondre Stevenson is at number 13. We have J.K. Dobbins at 14. Brian Robinson at 15. Kyren Williams at 16, which really hurt me to rank him. Tony Pollard.
We got Kyren at 16. Let me put Kyren in there. My bad. Kyren. There we go. Let's get Kyren in there. My bad.
No worries. Kyren was at 16. We have Tony Pollard at 17, Dave Montgomery at 18, Travis Etienne at 19, Cam Akers at 20, mostly because of my ranking, Zach Charbonnet at 21, Najee Harris at 22, Jerome Ford at 23, and Rachaad White at 24. Ray, I'll just say this. RB2s are disgusting right now. There's players who are hurt. We don't know about the roles. They're either in good systems and great roles in bad offenses, or they're in very questionable roles in good offenses. And I think the one that may surprise people to some extent is Brian Robinson. For me, it's the game environment. I love the game environment for B-Rob. They're going to be behind, and I think there's a lot of upside for him there. Tony Pollard's another one that I think has a lot of upside, but we agreed within 2 or 3 rankings of just about every single player here. You have Joe Mixon in there. I did rank Cam Akers quite high, mainly because I think Nico Collins isn't going to have that great of a week, and we'll talk about the receivers later. I have him at 16, you have him at 23, but a lot of it's in agreement here. The only one that I think we disagreed a bit on is Jerome Ford, and I think he's going to score this week, so I had to rank him in my top 24. You have him on, you didn't rank him at all. And then if you want to talk about Rachaad White, again, game environment, but I don't believe in the guy who can't even run the ball.
Yeah, so Ford, I had him at 26. You had him at 20. I just saw that Deontay Foreman usage last week, and it has me a little concerned that Jerome Ford is not as favored and revered as we maybe hoped to have assumed he would have. And then who was the other guy? Rachaad White. I've got him at 21. You got him at 26. If he's out there, he's going to get the opportunity. Didn't look particularly good last week. I think he's a little banged up right now. Najee's got a really difficult matchup versus the Chargers. I like Cam Akers as well, but Brian Flores and that Minnesota defense is no joke either, JRich. I think maybe there's a little more upward mobility for Tony Pollard. We got him at 17. I can see them taking the ball out of Will Levis's hands. Do not put it in his hands to screw things up. Spears is banged up. I think Tony Pollard actually might. Shit, if we can get Rhamondre out of there, but these ranks are set and move Tony Pollard up, I probably wouldn't mind that. But those are our top 24 RBs on the week. And then we had a couple of next up guys that a few of us that either you or I had ranked or didn't have ranked. That is Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, and Jahmyr White, who still has yet to get it going in Las Vegas.
Yeah, Jahmyr White has an Alexander Madison problem. I didn't think we would be saying that. And Austin Eckler, right, continues to catch passes out of the backfield, so he's always going to be that fringe low-end RB2 because Jayden Daniels continues to check it down to him. Do you have any final thoughts on the QBs and running backs? We went through all the players, tons of great matchups, and tons of bad matchups this week, both for fantasy football and in general. But do you have any final thoughts on the QBs and the RB rankings?
I'll just say, we did not talk about Kenneth Walker. If he plays, you are going to start Kenneth Walker. Any interest in starting any of the Broncos running backs against that? Who did they play in that one? Who did we talk about? Denver versus who did the Broncos play this week? Broncos play?
They don't play the Steelers, right?
No, it's not the Steelers. We were just talking about that Denver matchup, man, because it was a good matchup. Who do the Broncos play this week? Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Do you want to play any? Yeah, Tampa. Do you want to play any of the running backs against Tampa? Javonte Williams or Jaleel McLaughlin?
If anyone, it would be probably Jaleel McLaughlin, but it's just, again, I don't trust this offense. I don't trust Bo Nix. I think they're going to be down a ton, so maybe there's some receiving upside, which is why I'm not ranking Javonte Williams right now. He'd be an RB3, but I can't put him in my top 24.
There it is. Those are our quarterback and running back rankings for week 3 of the 2024 NFL season. Hit that thumbs up button, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Check out the next video where we go through the wide receivers and the tight ends. Appreciate y'all being here, staying locked in, and good luck in week 3. We'll see y'all next week. We're out. Peace.